What's up, Steelers fans? Welcome back to another episode of Around the Burgh. I'm your host, Mitchell Wolf, here with my co-host, Shane Kubis. Shane, how you doing tonight?
Well, we're kind of in this little bit of a dead period right now, so kind of just want to make sure we talk about what we can talk about, and hoping to hear some news here shortly.
This is the twilight zone, the
Yeah,
doldrums of. I mean, luckily, there's Stanley Cup playoffs and
there
NBA
is.
playoffs, so this isn't like late July bad.
Yeah, late
Uh,
July is the one where I'm like, okay, yeah,
but
I
it's
don't know.
but you're definitely coming up down off a bigger high of the draft, so
Yeah,
it's definitely one of the I would say like one of the worst sports periods because you're still like in the early playoffs, like there aren't like huge games just yet, so it's at least in the other sports. So it's kind of hard to get
yeah,
super amped about stuff. But
for sure.
so we're removed from the draft, so we're going to talk about some other stuff that happened in Steelers news. Last week when we recorded, the Devin Bush news hadn't come down yet, and we kind of just wanted to focus on the draft, so we didn't talk about it. But
Yeah,
last week, the Steelers declined Devin Bush's fifth-year option as a first-round pick. This is consecutive years now that they've declined the fifth-year option on their first-round pick. It worked out with Terrell Edmonds,
yeah,
allowing them to bring him back on a veteran minimum deal, which was great. Um, and Bush obviously struggled a lot last year, but I think a good bit of that was due in part to one, him coming back from the torn ACL, and two, the defensive line being banged up and him not having good players in front of him. So ideally, he comes back this next year. He's fully healthy. He's rehabbed everything. The front stays healthy, and he has a better chance to improve his play and make a lot of plays for the defense.
yeah. And I think it made a lot of sense for the Steelers, pretty much no matter what, even if they believe in him to come back and play well. The odds of him playing well enough to demand a $10 million+ contract
Fully
it's
guaranteed
just
too.
exactly it's just unlikely. Like,
Yeah.
he can play great for us and still not demand that type of money on the open market or from the Steelers. Similar to Edmonds, where he improved during his time here, but not so much that he was in demand across the league because of the safety market, and we were able to bring him back for $2 million.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I don't know off the top of my head when the next CBA comes up, or when the CBA expired, but I'm wondering if they're going to revisit that because I feel like teams are kind of now moving away from using that fifth year option unless it's usually like a quarterback, and then that just kind of delays them having to give them the big extension.
yes,
But otherwise, they don't really love using that extra year of fully guaranteed money. They'd rather like sign them to an extension where that 1 year is almost a discount.
yeah, because realistically, unless you're looking at like a wide receiver, the prospect that really turns out, a quarterback prospect, someone on the edge, something like that. Those are really the only positions where that fifth-year option is likely going to be a value for them.
Hmm.
Outside of that, like, it's probably not guaranteed to actually save you money or be a good team building option most of the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the good news about this is that I really don't think. Well, I think one that he's going to be very set up to do a lot better this season because you
Yes,
have
yeah,
Miles Jack next to him,
yes,
who can
yeah,
make a lot of plays in both the run and the pass. He's going to get coaching from Terrell Austin and Brian Flores, who are great coaches.
yes, yeah,
So I think he's going to positively regress more towards the 2019-2020 form.
yes, I think
And if
so.
he does have a really good year, I think that I think you have to have like one of the best linebacker years ever for them to like not want to re-sign him, uh,
Yeah,
based on
I think
like with the
so.
price tag he would command. But I think that because they have so much salary cap space next year, that was some fun
There you
spoonerisms
go.
there.
Yeah.
They have so much space next year
Hmm.
that they'll be able to sign him pretty much regardless of if they want to resign him, they can pretty much sign him to whatever deal he would want.
Right. Like, that's kind of the big thing too. Is like, let's say he has a fringe Pro Bowl year, right?
Yeah,
Like,
sure.
getting some votes doesn't obviously make it.
Let's say he's an alternate and goes like,
Right.
you
Right. So
know,
like, kind of like Deontay did last year.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So if that happens, even that, like, he's not going to command 11, 12, $13 million a year,
No.
because those contracts, that the linebackers who have those contracts have had
Mhm.
consistent, multiple years in a row of elite level linebacker play
Yeah.
at the inside linebacker spot. So he's still not going to command that much money unless it's like a desperate team. But again, if they want to pay him a crazy amount of money, then the Steelers are going to be okay with letting him go then.
Yeah, and if
Like,
and if
that's what
and
it
if
is.
they pay him that much, then they get the comp pick, probably a
Yeah,
fourth round comp pick, which is always
exactly.
good. Um,
Yeah.
and I think we've kind of questioned some of these linebacker picks in the last few years, but
Yeah.
they'll be set up well if he does leave. You still have Buddy Johnson. They draft. I don't really know what Mark Robinson's going to do. I do have a theory on that. We'll get into that
Yeah.
later.
We'll talk about that later.
Um, But I think that they should be able to re-sign him for a decent deal
Hmm.
at the end of next year, assuming he plays plays well, and even if he doesn't like have a great year, then they can re-sign him for pretty cheap, I think. So
Exactly. Yeah.
that
Similar
works
to the
well too.
Edmonds situation we
Yeah, and
talked
again,
about.
like he's like Edmonds, he's super young, so
Hmm.
like you could sign him to like a cheap like 2-year deal, and then like at the end of that deal, where he's like what 26 or 27,
Yeah.
you could still sign him to like another like 3 or 4 year deal. That's a lot better if he continues to improve his play.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right. So the other, I guess, set of news items would be that the Steelers are now conducting their second round of GM interviews.
Yeah.
Apparently, Kevin Colbert's contract goes to the end of May,
Okay.
so I think he's kind of helping them with the interviews.
That's yeah.
But
That's what he said. Yeah.
yeah, and of course, we still think that Brandon Hunt and Omar Khan are the front runners, especially
We
Hunt.
assume. Yeah.
But Hunt and Khan have both taken interviews elsewhere. I think just to kind of get the lay of the land, maybe try to drive up their price, which smart
Yeah. Good for
uh,
them.
businessmanship. But the other news that has come out is that the people who have the Steelers have interviewed twice, and those people are John Spytek, who
Hmm.
is the vice president of personnel for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Ryan Cowden, same role for the Tennessee Titans, and Doug Whaley, who is formerly the Buffalo Bills GM. He's currently the XFL vice president of player personnel, and he's actually he was the former Steelers pro scouting coordinator, so he was
Yeah.
the predecessor of Brandon Hunt.
Right.
So those are all the guys they've interviewed twice. The other people they've interviewed include Ed Dobbs, who's Indianapolis Colts assistant GM, John Wojciechowski, the Packers co-director of personnel, Joe Hortitz, the Ravens director of college scouting. That'd be quite the coup.
Hmm.
JoJo Wooden, the Rams director of player personnel. That's a good front office. Andy Weidel, the Eagles director of personnel. That's a good front office. Morocco Brown, the Colts director of scouting. They do a lot of really good scouting with small school guys.
Yes.
Dan Morgan, the Panthers assistant GM. I assume he's probably connected to the Steelers somehow with
Probably. Yeah.
some way.
Wouldn't be
Rand
surprised.
Carthen, the Niners director of player personnel. Rick Spielman, the former Vikings GM. Louis Riddick, the ESPN analyst and former Eagles director of pro personnel, and Jerry Reese, who's the former Giants GM.
Yeah.
So again, a lot of interviews. The Steelers definitely doing their due
Ye-
diligence.
Yeah, and I think that like we've kind of stuck, like you said, with our guns as far as I would be surprised if it's not Hunt and or Khan, most likely Hunt.
Mm-hmm.
But again, they have a ton of names here, many of which are very well respected across the league, especially in guys like Dobbs who have had multiple opportunities to
Yeah.
move on. He hasn't done that yet. That would be huge. I think that's kind of something we were talking about when he's first got mentioned is why,
Mm-hmm.
that'd be a big time move for us if we could get him. But again, most of these guys either have the resume that you'd want to see or have done it before. As much as I'm not a big retread guy, like it depends on their record
I mean,
and
Rick
what
Spielman's
things
a really
happen.
good GM.
Yes, yeah,
That leadership well,
exactly,
I can't think
yeah.
of the word pairing of him and Zimmer just kind of ran their
Yeah, that
course.
was that was tough for them. So like again, a lot of these guys either have done it before or are very well equipped to get that first GM job. So
Yeah.
probably not a lot of ways that I would say that they could go super wrong here, honestly.
If they've hired
But
Jerry Reese, I'd be very
yeah,
disappointed
well, Reese, yeah, we know, yeah, Reese, but
because like it's funny you read his Wikipedia, it's like, oh, like he got the Giants to win 2 Super Bowls. It's like, did he
uh,
though?
yeah,
Like those teams were not like those were very fluky teams. Between those seasons, they had losing seasons, and
yes,
that front office were notorious for like leaking their picks. And the Steelers are already relatively transparent, so the last thing
yeah,
you
we
need
don't
is a
need any
guy.
more, yeah,
Yeah,
any more transparency. So yeah, like
exactly.
he's definitely a guy I'm not a big like wouldn't make sense for them to go that route anyway, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
So
I think him and honestly like Riddick, just because the optics of just I get he like has been in the front office before, but I just don't love the optics of hiring an ESPN analyst.
yeah, we don't want to end up in the situation of the Mayock thing. And granted, I think Mayock kind of got a bad hand, but
Yeah,
still,
may I,
you don't.
I mean, are you seeing what's happening with the Raiders now?
Yeah, that's not surprising though
Yeah,
to me.
that
So
organization's just a mess. With I
yeah,
think
well,
I forget who was the guy that left or was fired.
the
What
president, I
he was
forget
the
his
president,
name.
team
Yeah, the
president. Yeah,
president, the team president.
yeah,
Yeah. So again, pretty much, I trust them to make a good decision. Obviously,
yeah, for sure.
I don't have a reason to think they won't. If it's not Hunt, I'll be surprised. But again, we'll see. It's going to be based on, I think, just whoever they do bring in the second round is all apparently in the running. So we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, we thought a while ago that like the Steelers would be sticking in house for their replacement of Bill Cowher, and they ended up not doing that.
Right.
Um, so they could surprise us, but I
That was
think that
possible. Yeah.
yeah, and if they do that and then they lose Cunt and or Con, then they should get some like those new comp picks, some
Yes,
roll
I
comp
believe
picks for that.
so. Yes. So That would
which
be good. If we do end up having to lose them because of that decision, at least we could try to gain something back.
yeah.
So
And if they hire excuse me, who was it? I'm losing my sheets. If they do hire like a guy like Doug Whaley, who I believe is a minority, then I think they get extra picks for that as well. So they could end up
yeah,
with a
it depends on I think the circumstances, but yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
yeah. So that could be interesting. But I don't think I don't think we'll find out exactly who it's going to be for at least another week.
Yeah, for at least I would say they'll probably drag this out till they kind of have to make a
Yeah,
decision. So
yeah. Because I mean, at this point in the calendar, nobody else is really looking
no,
for these kind of jobs, you know.
no,
And I don't think any team is going to fire. I mean, you see like this because the scouting contracts end after the draft, so you see scouts getting let go and that kind of
yes,
stuff. You don't see like executives, you know, switching
no. Outside
roles
of
like this.
like when the Jets, I think
Yeah,
then they
exactly.
yeah they got rid of I forget his
McCagnon.
name. Yeah, McCagnon. Yeah,
Yeah,
after the draft, which I'm like
yeah,
I don't know the point of that, whatever. But outside of stuff like that happening, this is not when you're gonna see candidates come free that you can
yeah.
just go ahead and poach. So
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah, so I think that they're kind of saying like we can be in a holding pattern because we can take our time.
yes, yeah.
So with some of these draft picks, I have a theory about some of the signings the Steelers have made that I think they could honestly be going for a kind of complete youth overhaul of this
Hmm.
roster because when I was kind of like doing like a 53-man roster like projection,
Yeah, I'll be
and I
doing
was
one shortly too.
right,
Yeah,
and I was looking at Gunnar Olszewski, and I was like, why do they need this guy if they drafted Kelvin Austin?
that's the question.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you can and Calvin and Gunnar Olszewski can be cut for almost no dead money, and they can. I think if they cut him after June 1st, which that'd be pretty easy, you can split the dead cap over the next 2 seasons, and then you save money against the cap. In a similar vein, I think there's a decent chance that Robert Spillane, Marcus Allen, and Ulysses Gilbert III are all in the cutting block because you could just have Buddy Johnson and Mark Robinson be your backup linebackers, and they serve the same purpose.
Yeah, the linebacker room is really interesting because like we know that Gilbert the third is basically a ghost of a player at this point.
Hmm.
He's a more of a thought than he is a
Yes.
physical being. Marcus Allen, obviously, safety linebacker hybrid type of guy. He's whatever. Spillane, we know what his limitations are. Not any less or more limited than any of the guys that we brought in last 2 years. So like all of them, I think it's going to come down to how many linebackers they want to keep
Hmm.
and do the young guys show enough that they think that there isn't any sort of real major drop off between them and the veterans?
Yeah, and that's what I think is like I can't really foresee a scenario where it's like, oh yeah, like Robert Spillane offers us a
More
lot
upside.
more in any aspect of football than Buddy Johnson. You
I
know?
don't see it unless Johnson really just hasn't figured it out, but I don't see that with
Yeah,
this
I
linebacker
mean, he did
coaching
not play
core.
a lot last year, so I'll say that. But you know,
Yeah.
I think he increases playing time on special teams. I think they kind of wanted to keep the veterans out there because of how banged up the defensive line was. So they
Yeah,
want to keep,
they were asking a lot of
yeah.
guys. Yeah.
So I think that was part of it as well. But now I think you could see, and I think you can cut most of these guys for no dead cap, just save like two
Yeah.
million dollars each. And I think Robinson, like you're asking him to play that Marcus Allen or like I guess Ulysses Gilbert like special teams role. Like you're not really gonna ask him to play defense.
Not
And
really, no.
Miles Killebrew offers you like the same skill set that Marcus Allen does, and like he's bigger and can even more effectively like play as a quote linebacker if you
Yeah,
want.
if you actually needed him to come in and play on defense, he's shown more of that in his
Yeah,
career. Which again,
exactly.
like a guy like him, he's obviously the special teamer guy. Like that's his
Mhm.
role. But the fact that he's capable of coming down to the box and playing, box safety linebacker type of role makes him just that bit more valuable than some of the other guys are.
Yeah, so and the wide receiver thing, I like us to go back to that is interesting because I think that clears up a whole roster spot that I think you can kind of have a good competition between guys like Anthony Miller and Miles Boykin to say like, okay, who's wide receiver five? Because I think both are good options, and I think each of them offers like a backup option too. So like Miller is your de facto backup for Deontay and Calvin Austin, whereas Boykin is your backup for Claypool and Pickens. And I don't think they would keep both on the active roster at any given time, but you know that because that would require them going with 6 wide receivers at a time, which I don't think they would love to do, but it's possible, I guess.
Yeah, I think Olszewski has to basically prove that he he'd have to play wide receiver
He's
very
had yeah,
long camp.
exactly.
Like he'd have to show that he can actually make an impact on offense if he was asked to,
Yeah.
right? More so than Johnson or any of the other guys that are on that fringe area of the roster. And I just don't think he's as good as a punt returning, kick returner as he's able to be. Austin just has more juice to him.
Yeah,
And I think he
absolutely.
would be able to provide just as much value there.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't make sense for them to keep him unless he actually shows he could come in and play receiver.
Yeah.
So
Which I frankly don't really think he
yeah,
would be
I
able
don't
to.
see that happening outside of like the Patriots.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
even
So,
there,
yeah.
he didn't do anything.
Yeah,
So,
so that might be kind of my hot take going into the preseason, that a lot of these guys and I know they kind of like re-signed Spillane and Allen, and some of those guys
that
took
was just, I think,
contract.
a restricted free agent tender there,
Yeah, so
right?
I think
So
that
nothing major.
right, I think those guys could be on the chopping block. The next bit of news, and this is kind of just more fun, and like we're in the off season now. Like there isn't going to be that much news until we finally get the GM stuff. But the drafted rookie numbers were revealed today. So we knew
Mhm.
Kenny Pickett was wearing 8. But the
Mhm.
other ones are George Pickens will wear 14, DeMarvin Leal will wear 98, Calvin Austin will wear 19, Connor Hayward will wear 83, Mark Robinson will wear 93, and Chris Oladokun will wear 5. So I like the quarterback numbers; those are
Mhm.
solid.
Yeah.
I'm very disappointed that Pickens isn't wearing 1 and Austin isn't wearing 4.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not surprised by
Yeah,
that.
apparently, I didn't know this, but I've seen it on Twitter a little bit that the Steelers have a unofficial retirement of number 1 due to some kicker from a long time ago.
Their points, their all-time points
Oh,
leader.
okay. They just haven't officially retired. Okay, so
Yeah, he's the I forget I
is it a
can't remember.
Gary
Yeah,
Anderson?
it's Anderson, Gary
Yeah.
Anderson, I think. He's their all-time points leader, so they like kind of just don't give the number out, which I
Huh.
think in that like granted, not trying to take away from any guy, but like let's let Pickens wear one.
Yeah, that because
Like
that and
it
like
just looks
it's
great.
also funny because like you have Austin wearing 19, which is Juju's number, and
Yes.
Pickens wearing 14, which was Ray Ray McLeod's number, and it's like those two just don't.
Yeah, it's
Those
like
are
maybe
weird.
flip
That's a
those
weird
if you're
matchup.
gonna do that.
So
Yeah.
I'm wondering if after preseason they might switch those around. So I would
Maybe.
say because like some players do that. Like I think Darnell Savage did that a few years ago because he did 21 Savage in the preseason, then he switched to
Yes.
26, which was criminal.
Yeah, that was
Um,
dumb, but whatever. Yeah.
so I would say like hold off on buying jerseys. Otherwise, DeMarvin Leal in 98 is fantastic.
I
Love
like
that.
that. Yeah, I like that.
Mark Robinson 93 solid,
Yep.
and Connor Hayward in 83 is interesting.
Yeah, so that kind of just again, like he's a tight end apparently. Yeah, which I mean, that's what they said.
I don't love them giving Heath's number that quickly,
No,
to
that
be
either.
honest.
But so yeah, I feel like Hayward should have been like, I'm good. I'll wear a different number.
Yeah, like I mean, I think he's a perfect player where if you give him a number in the 40s, which is the worst set of 10,
Yes.
um, but if you give him a number in the 40s, it works because then he plays both and it makes sense.
Yeah.
But even if they give him a number in the 30s, like I feel like 36 would be fine for him. Like
Yeah, 36 would be fine.
it's been enough time since Jerome that you can give a fullback / tight end that number.
Yeah, I think
I'm
Jerome would be
perfectly
like,
fine
yeah,
with
that's the kind of guy I'd like
it.
to
Exactly. Yeah.
have wear my
Exactly.
jersey, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, he obviously Heath is a team legend and everything, and like obviously it's not like they're gonna retire the jersey, but I guess giving it to Cam's brother, I guess is cool, but like I don't know. I don't know if I'd want it if I was him, frankly. I don't know
Yeah.
if that's what I
And
want.
like like let's be honest, like if it's gonna go to a tight end, it has to go to like a guy that looks like Heath. You know,
Yeah, or
it's gotta
something.
go to like a 6'5",
Like if they would have
250 pound.
given it to Pat, I'd been like
I would
even
accept.
like
I
I would
would
have
have been.
been
I would have
like
been
I
a
would have
little begrudging,
understood.
but
Right, but I would have understood the
yeah,
thought process here. Like you want him to be that next guy for
yeah,
you. But
yeah, I would have been
giving it
fine
to
with that.
Hayward, like I don't know. It's weird, but
Also, another interesting number tidbit is that Demonte Casey was given number 24, which is also Benny Snell's number.
yeah, well, I mean, one of those guys has played at a starting caliber level in the NFL.
Fair, that's true.
So
So I'm wondering if because 23 is available, so I'm wondering if they're waiting to see if Hayden might. I mean, Hayden posted a video today of him like moving out, so
yeah, I don't see
I
him
don't think
coming
he's coming
back.
back
Yeah.
at all. I think we can kind of
I don't
kiss that dream
know.
goodbye.
I don't know what his plans are at this point. I don't know if the teams have really reached out to him at this point. He could be a training camp ad like kind of guy.
I
Like
think
just wait till
I mean
training camp.
honestly, like just off the top of my head, like Chiefs sign him after the preseason
Yeah, something like that.
because
Just to
like
have
they need some
depth
corner
there.
depth, and he's a
Yeah.
veteran. It's a winning team. something like that. Go to the same thing applies to the Bills.
Yeah, anybody like that. I mean,
Yeah,
that's what you. I mean, I do think he's gonna eventually get a contract if he
yeah,
wants to play, but I think we're gonna be waiting a while to find out where he goes.
yeah. All right, I'm gonna present my grand unified theory of jersey
Yes, I would
numbers
like
now.
to hear this in
Okay,
depth.
so I came up with this I think like last summer.
Mm-hmm.
And this is partially like inspired by my relatively OCD brain. So I understand if some people don't agree with it, but
Mm-hmm.
here's my theory. So,
Okay.
with the exception of multiples of 5, which are
Okay.
always the best numbers,
Fair enough.
so
Okay.
10, 15, 20, 25, so on and so forth. The closer that two numbers are mathematically related to each other, the more appealing they are, 2 digits. So,
Okay.
the numbers that are the same, 11, 22, 88, 99, those are the best.
Right.
Okay. And numbers that are one more or one less, 21, 32, uh, or the other way,
43.
45,
43. Yeah.
56, those are good. And
Mm-hmm.
as you get further and further away, the
Okay.
two digits get further away from each other, the less appealing the number becomes.
Okay.
So your 59s, your 73s, those are bad.
Mm-hmm.
And
Okay.
then generally, numbers that are multiples or divisors of each other, so 24, 2 and 4, 8 and 4, 84, 8 and 4, 93, 9 and 3 are good too. And generally, evens are better than odds.
Okay. I think I can get behind that.
So I think by my logic, I mean, generally, and then in terms of the multiples of 10, like the 40s are the worst. I think we can all agree on that.
Yeah, if you are a number in the 40s, unless you're like already an established player
You have to be
or
a
something
fullback
like that.
or
Troy
a
Polamalu.
or and
That's about it.
like that's the one exception. Like there are
Right. That's
exceptions.
what I'm saying. There's exceptions to everything, but like there's
Yeah.
not very
Like
many.
people are like, oh, like when they say like, oh, like look at all these undrafted free agents. Like, yeah, but there's like thousands of undrafted free agents that never sniffed a down.
Yes, it's
So
you're playing an even better high, like a even more average than the draft is by itself with these
yeah,
guys. Like
exactly. Like
so,
she's like, oh, like Ronnie Lott wore 42. It's like, no, that's no. Like James Pierre wears 42.
yeah, like that's
Opposite
the
sides of the
range
coin.
we're looking. That's the range we're looking at here. Yeah.
Yeah. But 40s are bad, but like 47 is awful. 49 is bad. Uh, but like I said, like 55 is elite. 44 can be good. Like you see, like the Syracuse run. It's still like that's like the Syracuse running back
Yeah,
number.
that's like a legigendary thing,
And
unless
those,
like
and again, because
yeah.
it's the same number, those are exceptions. Those are the exceptions. But like if you think back, like think about like Marvin Harris in 88, Michael Irvin in 88, like even though those are like blocky numbers, it
Mhm.
still looks good, looks clean. And obviously there's been like tons of defenders that are 99.
Yeah,
So but yeah, that's my grand unified theory on how to grade jersey numbers.
fair enough. I think that in general, I probably, whether I thought about it in that way or not, generally agree with that. I do love the doubles for sure.
Yeah.
Like a big doubles guy. I really like that.
Yeah. And yeah, that's the thing is like just as and that's kind of the anchor of this theory is that basically the further away you get from that, except for multiples of 5, the worse it gets.
It makes sense. It
Yeah.
does when you think about it
Which
that
means
way.
that like 55 is like the ideal jersey number.
I guess so. Yeah, that would be the
Which
ultimate jersey number.
coincidentally was that the first number I wore in football? Maybe.
Yeah, I wore 63, so I
I
was
think
the
we might have talked about
multiples.
this
Yeah,
actually.
the multiples at least I had
Yeah,
that
there you
going.
go.
So,
That's a
yeah.
bit of a saving grace.
Yeah, so
All right.
but
We got
yeah.
anything else to talk about?
Right, I mean, right, it's tough, right? Like I know I wanted to, we talked about this a little bit before the show. I wanted to just throw this out there just because I think it was funny. This is not really like
Oh
a
boy.
Steelers news thing or like anything important, but we frequent Twitter. That's what we do a lot of stuff
What?
on there. You know?
What are you talking about? What is this?
Jesus Christ. I don't frequent Twitter nearly enough. I probably should post more on it actually than I do. But something's been going around a little bit about overrated players on each team that was posted by a Twitter account that I'm not going to mention right now because they're kind of iffy for me. I don't like them very much, but they're getting ratioed.
Don't they have a bad quarterback they need to be defending?
Yeah, right. Exactly. You can. We're not going to even tell you the fan base, but you can probably narrow it down just based on what we just said. But they're getting ratioed to hell right now, and deservedly so because they have players on that list such as Kenny Pickett for the Steelers, who has not played it down yet.
I
That's
need to
one
go
thing.
find this tweet because I only saw
Yeah.
that one. I need to see like the other awful
There's
ones.
there's a lot of awful ones, but the one that stands out to me the most, we talked about it before the show, is they have Kellen Mond for the Vikings as the most overrated player on that team, which the rookies that they have a couple rookies on the list. That's self-explanatory why that's bad because they haven't played to know if they're properly rated or not before the draft, like before the actual NFL season starts, right?
I think my favorite is Drew Lock on the Seahawks.
Yeah, I
What
mean,
a take.
granted, I will say with that one, Pete Carroll did say that he would have been the first quarterback drafted in this draft class.
Dude, they Jameson
So,
Williams for the Lions.
yeah, again, like the rookies, just I'm gonna ignore that because that's just straight, like it's unnecessary. I don't know what we're doing. You don't know. We have our grades and stuff, or we have our expectations for these guys, but you can't overrate or underrate a player who hasn't played for their team yet. Like you can't. If we were doing this in college last year, that's one thing, but this is, they haven't played in the NFL yet.
I'm also curious, like they're listed like 1 to 32. So does that mean
The
like
most
is
yeah.
that like the most overrated player on any of all the teams? Like Derwin James is the most overrated player
I
in the
I
NFL,
don't know,
which
but like based on the list, like I don't that wouldn't surprise me if that's how they did it. I don't know if they because there is no like rhyme or reason for the ordering.
also does anybody actually think Leighton Vander Esch is good? Like
Not anymore, I
I
don't
don't
think,
think
right?
so.
Because I mean, maybe
Also
like
putting
3
Devonte,
years
I mean
ago.
like putting Devonte Adams on this list is just disrespectful.
Yeah, that's just being mad that you don't have the best receiver in the
Yeah.
NFL on your team. Yeah, that I just thought was funny,
I just
but
Ike McQuaney for the pan. Good God.
yeah, like I said, the rookies just I'm not gonna even comment Derek Stingley
Yeah.
Jr. Like, I
Also,
mean,
I'll stick up for Marlon Humphrey for the Ravens. Marlon
yeah,
Humphrey's
he's not.
awesome. He's so
Marlon's
good.
great when he plays.
No,
Like
he's
he had a
great.
couple, like he had
That's
some injuries last year, and like the
that's
Jamar
terrible.
Chase play that was weird.
That might be my least favorite take on this
Yeah,
whole list.
maybe.
Like
Like,
I don't think there's really I really don't think there's a way you can defend that. And like you were saying with the Steelers example, like if you want to talk about the most overrated player on the Steelers, like put Minka or TJ Watt on this list. Like have a take.
yeah, just take because at least like if you say Kenny Pickett, you're just being like, they took a bad quarterback in the first round. Like
Yeah,
that's your
man.
take
Like
basically.
okay.
Like that happens literally 65% of the time. So like, wow, that's a big leap there. But there's one I'm just seeing too that I really don't understand at all, and it's Preston Smith on the Packers. Like, who talks about Preston Smith? No offense to Preston Smith. Like he's a good player.
This would be like if we took like the 2008 Steelers defense and the most overrated player is Aaron Smith. Like
That's
nobody talks
right.
about
I'm
him.
like nobody like Preston. Like good for him. Like he's a good
Yeah,
player. He got
I
a
like Preston Smith
contract
a
extension.
lot. I think he's a
He's a
good
good
player.
player. But like, who's talking about Preston Smith enough? For, like, if you said Rashawn Gary after he had a really good season last year, and maybe people think he's going to be overrated now, that at least I could figure out how you got there, right? Who's
Mhm.
talking about Preston Smith enough for you to go? You know what? That's the guy for the Packers,
I need to go find Preston Smith Twitter.
right? Because it has to exist, right? Because how else did he come to this conclusion?
I
Like, also, we need to find Tyler Higbee Twitter.
yeah.
Freaking what else? Like, who else here? This would be good. Like with the Kellen Mond thing is stupid. We already know that. Nick Bolton.
I was gonna say Nick Bolton Twitter.
Like, yeah, because okay, I don't know because they needed help a linebacker and he did good
Low
for them.
key, I bet Drew Lock Twitter's a fun time.
Drew
That's
Lock's
just
is terrible,
no, but like
but yes, it's fun.
I feel like that's just like a dude's rock. Like it's just like dudes want to like drink beer and hang with the lads.
There's a couple people that I see consistently talk about Drew Lock, and I'm like, honestly, if I didn't think about it hard enough, I might forget he plays for anybody. Like I might be able just to forget he's a player.
I feel like I am
So
like implicitly in the Jameson Williams hive. Like I
yeah,
don't
you
own
kind of
that.
have to be in this
Like sure.
situation. Like how are you gonna put him on a list of over players when he's probably not gonna play the first half of the season, and he's a rookie? What do
Yeah.
he's yeah, you're gonna be able like, yeah, he only had 500 receiving yards. Let's say, yeah, he played 7 games or however many he ends
Yeah.
up playing.
This is
That's
wild.
just this. I just could not talk about it. It's just so funny. And like, this is one of the reasons I love Twitter because like people will just throw stuff out there sometimes, and then I get to watch the world burn around them
Mhm.
as everyone loses their mind collectively. And
Yeah, so this stands at 1343 quote tweets and 32 retweets, 315 likes. So
yeah, he's getting quadrupled up
ratios
right
like you
now.
read about.
Yeah, he's getting quadrupled up right now. And like,
I don't. This doesn't beat one of my all-time favorite ratios, which was where I don't remember what the tweet was exactly what it was, but it was around the time when John Madden died,
okay,
and the people were claiming that the Madden video games led to the uptick in CTE and suicides because of it. And I was like,
I do remember that
wow.
now. And I'm like, that's a take to have in this moment.
Yeah, and this was like the day after he died, which was like Christmas Day, and I was like, "Geez, you must be having a tough time."
Yeah, I can't imagine finding out a person died and been like, you know what, this is the time to
And that
drop the
person, like,
hammer.
I like looked into them and they like teach like a sports business class, and I was like, man, you must just be a joy to learn from.
Yeah, I don't know.
All right, well,
That was
we're
fun.
we're
We got
we're
to
getting
talk
up to
about
a
that.
half hour here, and we're
Yeah,
running out of gas. So,
yeah. So we're good.
thank you everybody for tuning in. Make sure you're following us on Twitter at Mitchell T Wolf WLFE, at Shayne Kubis SHAYNE. Make sure you're following Around the Block on Twitter, YouTube, Twitch, all that jazz. Thank you for tuning in, and we hope to have you back next time.